I, 31 male, just found out my perfect parents are racist towards my fiancé, 29 female, black, and my sisters dropped a truth bomb that shattered everything. Now I'm cutting ties and standing by the woman I love. I'm writing this because, honestly, I'm trying to get my head straight about what's happened. I don't know what to do next or who exactly I'm supposed to believe, and it feels like the ground has shifted underneath me. So let me just lay it all out as clearly as I can. I'm a white man in my early 30s, and the woman I'm engaged to, the woman I love more than anyone I've ever met, is black. She's brilliant, funny, strong, and she's changed the way I see the world in more ways than I can count. I've dated a handful of women before her, but none of those relationships felt anything like what we have. I've never been more sure of anyone. She's it for me. She's the woman I want to spend my life with. Until recently, I thought I had the perfect family, too. My parents and I have always been close. I'm one of those people who actually enjoys family gatherings, who picks up the phone when my mom calls just to chat, who goes out of my way to visit when I'm in town. My siblings and I get along well, and growing up in the Midwest, I never had a reason to question whether my parents were anything but open-hearted and kind. Race wasn't really something that came up much where I grew up. There weren't many black families in our town, but it wasn't something I thought much about. My parents always seemed like good people. You know? They gave to charity. For as long as I can remember, they've donated money to an orphanage in Africa through their church. They never made offhand comments or jokes that raised red flags. I assumed they were decent, fair people. They met my fiancé about a year ago. At the time, it was casual. I introduced her the same way I'd introduced other women I'd dated. We had dinner together once, they made polite conversation, and that was that. I think, in hindsight, they assumed she was just another girlfriend, and it wouldn't last long. But it did. It lasted and deepened in ways I couldn't have predicted. A few weeks ago, I proposed and she said yes. We decided to share the news on our family Zoom call. My parents looked surprised when I said the words. I hadn't given them a heads up, and maybe that was a misstep on my part, but after a few beats, they smiled and congratulated me. My mom even teared up a little. I thought we were good. To give them a chance to get to know her better, we invited them to dinner, just the four of us, something a little more intimate. I wanted them to see who she really was, not just as my girlfriend, but as their future daughter-in-law. We made a plan to have dinner at their house the following weekend. My fiancé and I showed up, wine in hand, a little nervous but hopeful. Everything seemed fine at first. My fiancé was her usual warm, graceful self. My parents were polite, maybe slightly formal, but nothing alarming. About 20 minutes in, my mom realized she forgot an ingredient for one of the dishes and asked if someone could run to the store. My dad and I offered to go, figuring it'd be quick. We got in the car and headed out. Not even 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my fiancé. Please come back right away. I need you. My stomach dropped. I showed my dad the message, told him something was wrong, and we turned around. When we pulled back into the driveway, I saw her sitting in my car. She didn't have the keys, I did, but she was inside, curled up in the passenger seat, tears streaming down her face. I ran over, opened the door, and she just whispered, "Can you take me home? Please." I didn't ask questions right then. I got in the driver's seat, started the car, and drove us back to our apartment. She cried softly the entire way. My phone buzzed a couple of times, my mom asking where we went, if everything was okay, but I ignored it. When we got home and she'd had a chance to sit and breathe, she told me what happened. According to her, as soon as I'd left, my mom's demeanor shifted. It was like a mask dropped. My mom told her, straight-faced, that she was not supportive of us because she didn't want black grandchildren. She went on to say other things that, frankly, make me feel sick even typing out, like how she was surprised someone like my fiancé managed to marry up and how she hoped I'd come to my senses before it was too late. I sat there on our couch, listening to the woman I love tell me all of this, her voice breaking, her hands shaking, and I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. I couldn't reconcile the words she was saying with the woman who raised me. My mom. The woman who packed me lunches and bandaged scraped knees and sent birthday cards with long, handwritten notes. But there was no doubt in my fiancé's eyes. She wasn't making this up. She had no reason to. I called my parents that night. My mom sounded confused, cheerful even, like nothing had happened. When I asked her, flat out, what she'd said to my fiancé, she got defensive. She claimed it was a misunderstanding, that maybe she'd been misinterpreted. She spun it around so quickly, I almost doubted what I'd been told. But when I asked her directly, "Did you say you didn't want black grandchildren?" There was a pause. And then she said, quietly, "I just worry about what kind of life they'd have. You know it wouldn't be easy for them." I don't know what broke more in that moment, my trust in her, or the idea I'd always had about who my parents were. I haven't told my siblings yet. I don't know how much they know, or what side they'll take. I don't know if I should confront my parents again, or just step back. All I know is that my loyalty, first and foremost, is to my fiancé. She didn't deserve that. And if my mom thinks she can say things like that and still have a place in our lives unchallenged, she's wrong. After sitting on it for a day, trying to wrap my head around everything, I decided I couldn't leave it where it was. I needed clarity for myself, for my fiancé, for our future. So I confronted my mom directly. Calmly but firmly, I told her what my fiancé had told me and asked her, point blank, what she had actually said during those 10 minutes I was gone. She didn't miss a beat. My mom looked me straight in the eye and said she'd said nothing even remotely close to what my fiancé had described. According to her, the only comment she made was a casual question, that she was just curious about what country my fiancé's family originally came from, since Africa is such a big place. She claimed that maybe my fiancé had misunderstood her intention or tone, and that things had spiraled from there. She painted it as an innocent curiosity, something she thought anyone would ask when getting to know a new family member. I'll be honest, for a moment it gave me pause. Both of these women mean everything to me, and I've never known either of them to lie. Ever. My fiancé is one of the most honest, direct people I know, and my mother, well, she raised me to believe in truth-telling and integrity. And here they were, giving me completely conflicting stories. Polar opposites. I didn't want to doubt either of them, but the situation left me feeling like I was standing on shifting sand. What if, and I hated even letting the thought cross my mind, what if my fiancé had misunderstood? Or worse, what if something deeper was going on? Could she be having some sort of stress-induced or emotional episode? The weight of everything, planning a wedding, dealing with new in-laws, maybe it had gotten to her? I hated myself for even entertaining that line of thinking. But I had to be thorough. I sat down with her that evening and gently, carefully, asked her more probing questions. I wanted to make absolutely sure I understood exactly what she heard, what was said, how it was said. She didn't waver. Not once. She looked me square in the eye, steady and clear, and repeated exactly what she'd told me before. Word for word. My mother had said she didn't want black grandchildren. My mother had made condescending comments about her marrying up. My fiancé wasn't confused. She wasn't misinterpreting. She knew what she heard. I felt like my head was splitting in two. These were the two people I trusted most in the world, and they were giving me irreconcilable accounts. I was stuck in the middle, and it felt unbearable. That's when I realized I needed more information, more voices. I couldn't carry the weight of this alone, not when it was tearing me apart. So I called my sisters. I told them it was urgent and asked if we could get on a Zoom call that night. They agreed immediately, and within the hour, we were all staring back at each other on my laptop screen. I laid everything out. No sugarcoating, no half-truths. I told them exactly what my fiancé said happened, what my mom claimed happened, and how torn I felt. As soon as I finished talking, there was this long pause, the kind that crackles with tension. And then one of my sisters let out a short, strangled laugh. She tried to stifle it, but it slipped out anyway. She shook her head, smiling grimly. I blinked at her. What's funny? I asked, my stomach nodding. She took a deep breath, her expression softening with something like pity. Are you really asking us this? She said quietly. That's when the floodgates opened. One by one, my sisters chimed in, not just agreeing but practically tumbling over each other to confirm it. Of course Mom's racist. She's always been like this. I'm surprised you're surprised. I sat there in stunned silence as they unloaded 30 minutes worth of stories I'd never heard before. According to them, growing up, Mom regularly gave them talks, serious, sit-down, mother-to-daughter talks about not dating or marrying outside their race. Especially not black men. She'd say that interracial marriages never work out, that no decent man would want you after if things didn't last, that life would be harder, messier, full of struggle. She'd press it on them over and over. Apparently, it was a running theme through all their teenage years and young adulthood. And yet, despite all of that, they'd all married white partners anyway. They'd shrugged it off, rolled their eyes, moved forward with their lives. They thought I knew. They thought I had to know. But here's the kicker. I'm 9 years younger than the youngest of my sisters. I came along much later, the baby of the family. By the time I was old enough to have the talk, they'd all left home. They'd already married, already moved on, already ignored Mom's outdated, ugly ideas. Maybe she'd given up by then. Maybe she thought it wasn't worth it to lecture me the way she had them. Maybe she figured I wouldn't listen anyway. Whatever the reason, I'd been blissfully unaware. Protected, in a weird way. She never once mentioned race to me. Never once tried to guide or warn me about who I should or shouldn't date. It just never came up. And now here I was blindsided. I sat back in my chair that night, staring at my sisters on the screen, feeling this slow, hollow ache spread through my chest. They weren't lying. Their voices were too tired, too matter-of-fact, too lived in for this to be some elaborate conspiracy. It made too much sense. My fiancé hadn't lied. She hadn't imagined it. She hadn't misunderstood. My mother, the woman I had idolized and trusted without question, had simply shown her true colors when she thought I wasn't looking. I think the hardest part wasn't even realizing my mom had said those things. The hardest part was realizing just how deep this ran, and how naive I'd been not to see it sooner. I guess looking back, I really was blind to a lot of things. After that long call with my sisters, after hearing their stories and everything they'd carried alone all these years, more pieces started falling into place. They told me almost offhandedly, like it was just another fact, that I was always the favorite. That because I was the only boy, the youngest, my parents had treated me differently. Protected me. Spoiled me even. I never saw it like that. I always thought we'd all had the same kind of upbringing. I assumed mom and dad had paid for everyone's first car, helped with college tuition, chipped in here and there equally. Turns out, that was just me. They hadn't been given those things. Not like I had. They'd had to fight for their independence and make their own way more than I ever did, and I'd just never known. I was a kid when they were in high school and college. How could I have known? How could I have seen it for what it was? But still, they were hurt. Hurt that I hadn't realized sooner. Hurt that I'd made my fiancé face my mom alone that day, that I'd hesitated even for a moment when she came to me in tears. I know they didn't mean to pile on, but I felt it, the weight of it. It crushed down on me as soon as I hung up the call. I sat there for a long time, staring at the black screen of my laptop, my reflection faint in the glass. I felt like the close, solid, happy family I thought I had was just an illusion. Like I'd been living in a house of mirrors and someone had finally smashed the glass. But there was one thing I knew, one thing I could still stand on. I got up, walked into the living room where my fiancé was sitting, and I told her everything. All of it. I told her what my sister said. I told her how sorry I was, not just for that day, but for all of it. For not seeing, not knowing, not believing her right away. And I told her that I was with her. For life. No matter what. I told her that if it came down to it, I didn't care if my parents or anyone else in my family cut me off. I didn't care about holiday dinners or awkward silences or burned bridges. I was siding with her. Always. I should have done it from the very beginning, without hesitation. Because she's not the type of person to throw around accusations lightly. She's not someone who jumps to conclusions or gets caught up in politics or drama. She's steady. She's kind. We just sat together after that, holding each other in silence. I don't cry often, almost never, if I'm honest, but I had tears in my eyes that night. And so did she. She wasn't angry with me, not really. Just sad. Sad about the whole ugly mess. Sad that something that should have been a celebration, us building a future together, had turned into this tangled, painful ordeal. We talked long into the night about what came next. About whether or not to cut my parents out completely. I know, without a doubt, we won't let them around our future children. That line is drawn in permanent ink. My mom made it clear how she feels, and I won't risk exposing our kids to that. Later that night, my sisters called me back. Their voices were softer this time. They apologized for coming down on me so hard earlier. They said they knew it wasn't fair to dump all that on me in one sitting and expect me to process it perfectly. I appreciated it. Even though everything still felt raw and jumbled inside me, it helped a little to hear that. There's one thing still gnawing at me, though. My dad has internal Ring cameras in the house. Always has for security. I asked him if we could check the footage from that day. I wanted to see it for myself. To know exactly what was said, how it was said, for closure. He told me the videos had already been deleted or overwritten. Convenient timing. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not. Either way, that door is closed now. I won't get that hard proof. I have to live with the word of the people I trust. I know this whole situation stirred up a storm. I didn't mean for it to get so messy, online or off. But I wanted to give an update because people kept messaging me, and maybe someone out there will find something useful in all this. At the end of the day, I know where I stand. I stand with my fiancé. With the woman I love. I don't know what the road ahead looks like with my family, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm seeing things clearly. And I won't look away again.